So before I start, I just want to point out a few things. First, that I'm the type of gamer who's going to buy the PS5 the moment it comes out without question. I'm not concerned with price or what Microsoft is doing. The games I want to play are on PS5, just like they were on PS4, PS2, and PS1. That said, I am not a PlayStation fanboy. That's why when I saw they were making a sequel to The Last of Us, a game that I, along with many others, consider to be one of the greatest of all time, I decided to buy it right away. As such, when it released last week, I sat down and played it front to back twice in release weekend and got the Platinum Trophy. Now I have some thoughts. Before I continue, I want to say that I'm going full spoilers in this video. If you don't want to be spoiled on plot elements for The Last of Us Part 2, go play the game and come back. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into this. First and foremost, let's address the elephant in the room. I hate Abby. By the time we make the big switch and take over Abby, I was totally invested in Ellie and her quest for revenge. More importantly, though, I was all in on hating Abby for the frankly unnecessarily brutal way she killed Joel. On the one hand, I totally understand that Abby was upset that he killed her father. However, she didn't just kill Joel, get her revenge, and call it a day. She tortured him and bashed his head in right in front of Ellie and by extension, you the player. Now, we've, presumably at least, spent an entire game with Ellie and Joel, so right away this is a striking thing to present to the player about 2 hours into the sequel of such a beloved game. That's not necessarily a bad thing. However, even without this context, a player coming into this game without any prior knowledge and rapport with these characters is likely going to be on board with getting revenge on Abby for what she did. For me personally, I was so upset by it that by the time we make the switch to Abby, I was so mad. As a consequence, all the effort they put into making Abby a more relatable character didn't land for a single second with me. I do, however, think there's a more important point I want to make here, and that's that for me, Abby as a character kind of sucks. The reason that I say this is that from a player's perspective, the game presents almost everything Ellie does through a negative light. And by contrast, since we're supposed to relate to Abby, we see a mostly positive representation of her in what some are calling a redemption arc. However, there's a really fundamental problem with this. Ellie and Abby are in totally different positions in their own revenge quests. For Ellie, she suffered the pain of losing Joel and immediately went on an emotional quest for revenge against those that wronged Joel and herself. We follow her during this quest while she does awful things in the pursuit of revenge. However, for Abby, we follow her after she got what she wanted. She had revenge. So for Abby, who, by the way, never shows remorse or regret for what she did and how she did it, to seek redemption and try to be better rings hollow because she already got what she wanted in the first place. She goes on a quest for revenge, gets it, and then continues down a path to save 2 kids caught up in this weird cult that's never really delved into in a meaningful way, and ultimately, based on the title screen after you roll credits, gets to where she was looking to go. Ellie, on the other hand, never gets what she wanted. She never gets revenge, and in fact, in a sick twist of fate, had a happy, fulfilling life that she couldn't be content with and burns to the ground just to, at the end of the day, save the person she was seeking revenge against. She gets nothing and engineers Abby's salvation and happiness through her own self-destruction. Furthermore, I find it kind of strange that the game obviously goes to extensive lengths to show you how good of a heart Abby is supposed to have. This life that she has, and in a number of ways makes you feel and side with her, but continues to show you just how bad of a person she really is. The game even has a character outright say what I was thinking the whole time. That Abby is not and never has been a good person. For God's sake, at one point she takes absolute pleasure in the idea of cutting the throat of a pregnant woman. And this happens while she's on this so-called journey of redemption. Granted, this happens in the context of her coming after Ellie for killing all of her friends on Ellie's quest to get to Abby, but I don't think that that's an excuse for lack of a better word, joy that she takes in the idea of doing so. At absolute best, she's a person that's been obsessed with making herself into a super soldier for the sole purpose of getting revenge by murdering Joel, and just happens to hurt everybody around her in the process. And I do mean everybody. For God's sake, she gets mad at Mel because she was upset by what happened when they tortured Joel to death. What kind of a person can't empathize with the fact that not everybody's going to be on board with that? However, the game also gives us additional context that presumably Abby doesn't have, but still makes it harder to side with her on this revenge quest. Her father was ready to kill Ellie on the table without telling her or Joel, and when Joel finds out because somebody else decided that they were going to tell him regardless of Abby's father's wishes, and then Joel goes to stop him, he pulls a knife on Joel. For me as a player, this moment solidifies that Joel is trying to save his daughter, while Abby's father's the villain who will do anything to meet his own end goal. Granted, that end goal is the possibility, once again, possibility of a cure that would save humanity from this plague it's dealing with. Although, in all honesty, I'm not sure how they would plan to circulate this theoretical cure to the world's remaining populace, either by way of manufacturing enough of the cure with their limited resources or the actual distribution of such a cure. But nevertheless, there's only a chance it would work anyway. Then, with all this in the back of your head, you have to play as Abby and actively fight Ellie and win. This fight was probably the worst moment in the entire game for me, as I had to grapple with how much I hate Abby and still try to win and not just take endless pleasure in letting Ellie catch me and finish Abby off once and for all. But when you do win this fight is when the previously mentioned attempted murder of a pregnant woman happens, at which point you feel dirty as a player for putting this evil person in the position to do this, and have to watch in horror, hoping against hope that things work out. Now all that being said, The Last of Us Part 2 is not all bad. You certainly don't need me to tell you that it's a drop-dead gorgeous game. The mechanics are a nice evolution of what came before it in The Last of Us Part 1, with some nice additions like Ellie's Switchblade instead of constant shivs, albeit Abby ruins that too, the ability to go prone and dodge, and general improvements to the feel of the game. In fact, up until the moment it takes Ellie away and forces me into Abby's shoes, I was really enjoying the game. Exploring the world, finding all the collectibles, upgrading my weapons, and to some degree the ending works for me too, although I think the execution on that last bit was a little off. But I do get what they were going for, and I can kind of roll with the punches. I think The Last of Us Part 2 is a good game. I think there's a big 10-ish hour chunk in the middle of it that ruins a bunch of the experience for me, and generally left me with a bad taste in my mouth. However, looking at the whole package, I can't deny that I love a lot of what Naughty Dog's done here. It's a blast to play the game. And I think that maybe with time, I can come around to coping with how I feel about Abby and maybe just kind of taking it as part of the experience. However, today, I'm left feeling mixed. And if I were going to rate it, I would say that parts of it are definitely in the realm of a masterpiece. But it's too long, doesn't stick the landing in a lot of places, including but not limited to the ending. So overall, it's a pretty mixed bag. Maybe 15 hours of phenomenal game, 10 hours of personal resentment, leave me with a game that's right in the middle of the road. I think if you are on the fence at all, you should give The Last of Us Part 2 a chance, and make up your own mind regardless of what you've seen in rumors, heard in reviews, or heard people talking about elsewhere on the internet. But if you have played it, how do you feel about it? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, have fun out there.